Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So we are continuing to look at the price of Bitcoin, a cryptocurrencies market, and everything which is related to this field. Let's look at the price level of BTC because this is the most important thing at the moment, and everybody are looking at this and waiting for the bottom, for the reversal. So what happened is that we dropped basically to the height of the triangle which we mentioned yesterday in the previous update, almost to the height of this triangle. We touched $3,500, even felt a little lower than that on Coinbase, and if you remember, that was one of the targets which I mentioned before. So we, as I said, we must probably drop to $3,500 and $3,000. So I still hold to the thing that we probably go lower than that to maybe 3,000 at least, maybe even lower than 3,000, but I will look at the behavior of the price at those levels. Why I don't think that this was the bottom is that although we basically grew from $3,500 to almost $4,000, it's like $500 up. It's not convincing. There's no volume again, even comparing to the previous drop here. It's basically nothing. Moreover, none of the altcoins, well, maybe except the Quark chain, which we talked before, and it already had some strength, but except that, well, maybe like a few others which I don't follow, but most of the altcoins don't show any kind of the health. I think that they are basically ready for further decrease in price, and this is not really sustainable. Also, a lot of people are not happy, sort of not happy about getting entries in every new lows and hoping that the price will go up, and like utilizing the dollar cost averaging strategy, because they don't want to see their investments depreciate in value, while they wanted just to know the exact bottom level and buy at that point, or at least close to that point, and see the reversal signs at those levels. So, and now I would like to try to explain you my standpoint on the issue, on the question why we cannot define the bottom based on the standard approach. So in the standard case, like for example, let's compare it to February 6th, which we had the huge volume around here. We had a V-shape reversal in the price, and what we had here first wasn't only the volume. It was that after this sudden drop, which we may think that we have a sort of sudden drop here as well, but after the sudden drop at the bottom, we didn't have only the huge volume, but we also had a huge volatility at the lowest levels. So there was like a signs of the fight, of the struggle between bears and bulls, and there were both parties who tried. One party tried to push the price lower or panic selling, and the other party tried to buy at these low levels. And why it happened is that because a lot of the capital was in the market, especially at the top of the price, maybe like, I don't know, some of them, they left in the hope that they can buy at the lower levels, and those were not only the huge players, but also like small players, medium capital players, and they actually had still a lot of the buying pressure in charge of this, in part of this market, in this market, as a part of this market, and they basically made the huge players, whales or whatever you call them, to surrender at this price, and they just say, okay, if you are so willing to buy, then we will not fight with you, we will defeat you eventually. So what they did, they let the price grow, and eventually when those small investors, relatively small investors, got out of steam, they start to dump price again, and by these oscillations they finally ended up into the condition when basically we don't have such a small investors. They all either like long-term holders which don't want to buy too much, or those are only the huge players which still are driving the price. So it means that at this condition we will not be able to see, will not have the same behavior of the price in terms of the patterns of the bottoming as we had before. So here it would be completely different in my opinion. And well, actually now we have some nice rise as soon as I'm recording this, so you see that price is going even higher. But what is happening at the moment, what we can how can we define the true bottom, is that first of all, since there is no the intrinsic, well, there is intrinsic value, but there is no definition of the price of Bitcoin related to some of other asset like dollar or gold or whatever. It is still very highly speculative asset, and it is just defined but by demand and supply and demand. And it is basically can be applicable for most of the assets in the market, but in some cases it is backed by gold or by oil or by some currencies. In this case it is not backed by anything, and it's highly speculative. So in principle, taking account what I said before, without the small players which will play against the whales, we will not be able to see some certain bottom at which we will have the huge volume, and at which will be sort of fair or real true minimum of the price. Technically, it means that technically whales can push the price as low as they want. So like $2,000, yes. $1,000, yes. $100, absolutely possible. But why I don't think that it will drop that much is that I don't really think that they are so consolidated. They are so pushing this together. I think there are a few different groups which try to play on their own, and although at the moment they try to push the price low as together, but at some point when one of huge players will decide that, okay, if I will not buy now, then somebody else will buy now and I will be out of the position. So at this point they also play on OTC, of course. They will combine these both parties, these two ways of the trading. So I think at some point, maybe $3,000, maybe $2,500, they will decide, okay, it's time to push the price up and try to leave the other players out of the position. And as soon as it will do that, actually the volume will be not at the bottom, but volume will be during the rise to the top. First, it will be, of course, stop orders of the short positions, and in general there will be some, of course, pressure from the other whales which would try to not to let the price go to such high levels. But still, if we will see this rise to like $1,000, $2,000 from certain levels with the volume on this rise, not on the bottom, I think that would be one of the signs of the bottom was set, and we will probably see some continuation of the growth. So far, though, without such signals, I don't think that even like $1,000 or $2,000 are not the traps for collecting more liquidity, more stop orders or whatever you could play with from the whale side. It still could be a trap to push the price even lower after that, and again it could be whatever it is possible to reach, like $2,000 very likely, $1,000 quite possible. So in this situation I still continue to believe that our best strategy is to continue to buy every new low. The thing is that we shall not buy at every new high. For example, if you bought at $4,000 when we see the drop to that, and you bought at $3,500 and now you see the price is returning to $4,000, I don't see the reason to enter this again. We already had this position, you already had this position, so here you actually can fix some of the profit from $3,500 if you entered more or less big to a big position at this point. So but not buy, don't buy more. You already bought on the way down, on the way up you need only to sell. So if you'll sell now and the price will go back again, then you can actually buy to the value of you sold here. That is more reasonable strategy in my opinion. So far I will carefully look at the price, we'll look at what will happen with the levels, and again I would expect at least $3,000 and probably lower to happen eventually. So I would like, of course, this would be already the bottom of $3,500, and this nice rise would be the initiation of the more positive move in terms of the price evolution. But I just don't feel it will happen now. I will be happy that if it will, but you know, who knows. Anyway, we already had this we already had our lots at those levels, so we will be happy it will go up. Meanwhile, I would like just to mention a couple of things in terms of the news, which of course they are a rather speculative instrument tool, but what we would like to still follow is the development evolution of the space. For example, this one, Ohio becomes the first state to accept Bitcoin for tax payments. So it's actually like, if you can imagine, this is on the government level. So Bitcoin is already not sort of a scam, but you see it's really taken seriously. If it's again once from one state, then it can be accepted from the other states and other countries, and yeah, it's great in terms of the acceptance of the crypto in general. And for example, this one as well, Paraguay backs plan to build world's largest Bitcoin mining farm. Although the price is so low and mining is not that profitable anymore, especially in some of the areas of the earth, but they seem to be positive and expecting huge or at least some profits which they will have eventually. That's why they are entering this, continuing to plan this to grow in terms of the mining business. So those kind of news are rather positive, you see, and although we are quite depressed because of the price fall, we need to stay sober, and we need to understand that this is much bigger than the current momentum, and there's nothing like fundamentally wrong happened. We're still on the way to like whatever $1 million per Bitcoin, and it's just a matter of time when we'll reach it, and we need to be patient. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and don't listen to me because I'm just the random guy on internet, just stating my opinion about the market, and it's not a financial advice to any stretch. That's it. Hope it was useful. If it was, please leave a like and a comment. Subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you next time, or tomorrow, in my daily updates of the crypto market. Safe trading, guys. Goodbye.